So I'm a jazz bassist, right? And I have heard the old adage of the bass should be felt and not heard through my life in different situations. And I sort of had some thoughts and meditations on that phrase. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit, the original idea, I think, is for bass players not to be too loud, and I'm talking upright bass. I think this is the context in which this idea was born, but maybe not necessarily. If a bass player is using an amplifier, if you're turned up too loud, that kind of could take over the whole situation. So in order to prevent, especially I think young students to do that, there's this adage saying you should be felt, not heard. Now, I like this and I dislike this. And let me explain. I do think that over amplifying an upright bass makes it takes it away from the essence of its role in a traditional jazz ensemble. I generally prefer the unamplified sound of a bass, though not always, actually. But generally, especially in a straight-ahead jazz context, I prefer an unamplified bass sound. That's me. But I think that's also where this adage was born from, is that most people are like, it's that old school sound, that thing. But when you say that, you want, when especially a non-bass player says that the bass should be felt and not heard, you got to think about what that makes, especially a young bass player feel. It's like, oh, so you don't care about my notes? You don't actually want to hear what I'm doing? Does what I'm saying have any validity to you? Right? It can actually be a little bit offensive, I think. Especially for people who don't understand the broader context. And I also think it's harmful for non-bass players because it gives an excuse for them to really not listen to the bass. If their concept is, I don't have to hear this, all I have to do is feel this, right? And as an ensemble player, that's detrimental. You absolutely should be hearing what everybody is doing. You might not be able to focus 100% on everybody all the time. I think that's impossible. But you should be able to hear every person so that you can get information from every person. That makes a performance richer. So in that way, I really don't like it to become like a sort of a standard thing, that people say, like, oh no, the bass is too loud. It should be felt and not heard. However, I think there's a flip side that makes this actually very powerful. There's a saying I heard once that I really like. People won't remember what you said, but they'll remember how they made you feel. Right? Just think about that. So, if we're saying the bass should be felt and not heard, that's actually pretty profound from that lens, And in a sense, I think all musicians should aspire to be felt and not heard. So I think that's the flip side, and that's sort of where that phrase can end up. And I think having that sort of mentality is healthy. Because in the end, the notes don't matter. They do, but they don't. They only matter in that they're serving the purpose of making the people around you and yourself feel something. So, in that respect, I think maybe we should all aspire to be felt and not heard. That sounds weird. We should be heard, and we should be felt too. How's that sound? Cool?